Last week, maybe you joined us for class and we were just figuring out how to do it. So we had a little bit of technical difficulty. But we also had just a great time out here on the deck. And we've changed the view a little so everybody gets to see the mountains behind us, and maybe the sun coming up as we go through, and getting a little sunnier out here. So Scott and I have been out here for a week. We have been really enjoying it out here. It's been a really great break. And we've also really enjoyed that we can still teach classes while we're out here. It's been really fun and we can share that experience with everybody. So I hope you've enjoyed it as well. So this morning, I wanted to start with a little bit of strap work. And for the strap work, you can use either a yoga strap if you have that, or you can use a kitchen towel or a hand towel. I have this little small hand towel here. Something kind of lightweight is good. So if you're using the hand towel, you're going to hold the diagonal corners, and then that'll give you about the right distance between the two hands, um, away from your body, about how wide you want to hold it. Um, I often use a yoga strap. I have a really long yoga strap, so I double it over so it's not dragging the floor. Um, you might not mind it dragging the floor. That might just be a little idiosyncrasy that I have. So I'm going to hold it, like I said, a little bit away from my body. I'm not exactly shoulder distance. I'm a little wider than shoulder distance. My feet are parallel and facing forward. And then I have this little tiny bend in my elbows. And you might think it doesn't matter that much to do that, but that little tiny bend in my elbows puts the work in a really different place in my upper back, which we often talk about in doing this work. Can I get the rotator cuff? Can I get the back part of the shoulder, the upper back part of the shoulder? So I have that little bend in my elbows, and then I make sure my elbows go out to the side. And as my elbows go out to the side, I don't go so far that I collapse my chest. So I find the in-between place where the elbows go out to the side, chest feels open, back feels open, and then I'm going to do a little pull and hold it there and see if you can feel the muscles in the upper back of the shoulder and in the triceps. And then let it go. And do that same thing again. Pull out, see if you can find those muscles. If you feel a lot of forearm, which happens to people a lot, just back off a little and think of a really minimal grip. Not a super tight grip, just as much as you need to hold on, just the minimum amount. Let it go. We're going to keep doing that. So a little faster, reaching out, pulling out, and release. And then pulling out and release. And you just keep going with this. Find the muscles, let them go. Find the muscles, let them go. We start getting into these deep, small, stabilizing shoulder muscles. Repetition is the key. So it's not a lot of weight. It's a tiny amount of resistance, and we do it over and over again. That's how we get into it and strengthen those a little more. Inhale to pull and release, and pull out and release, and pull and release. And one more time, pull and hold that resistance. And then we're going to take it up about shoulder height, maybe a little lower than shoulder height. Back down. And inhale and exhale, lower. And I try to keep that wide bent elbow feeling. So I don't just lift my hands, I lift my whole arm up. And what I mean by just lifting the hands, if I leave the arm behind and the hands come up, the elbows droop. So I really think of that whole arm, including the elbow, coming up. That gives me the feeling I want, up around the shoulder. One more time, up just below shoulder height, hold it there, release your tension. We do that same pull here, pulling out, release it. I'm going to think upper back of the shoulder starts the pull and release. From the upper back of the shoulder, the elbows also widen. And then from the elbows widening, the side of the hand pulls out. So I'm really feeling that side to back line of the arm from here all the way to the pinky side. And inhale, pulling out and release. One more time, pull out and hold it. So same thing now going overhead. Whole arm reaches overhead and then back right below the shoulder. And elbows keep widening and back down. Now, as the arms go overhead, the shoulders come up a little. That's just fine. They lower down. Nice, easy, fluid up and down shoulder movement. Nice, calm rib cage. Ribs stay in place. And reaching up and lower. 2 more. And then take it up and hold it. And then same thing here. So now my elbows are reaching out still. And when my arm's overhead, I actually think of the elbows coming forward a little bit. I think we did this a couple weeks ago in this class. We talked about this. So in the overhead position, instead of out to the side, I think just a little forward with the elbows, pulling out and release it. And inhale, pull, and exhale, release. And reaching out and release. And I'm still thinking back of the armpit to pull and release. Back of the shoulder and release and pull and release and pull. 2 more. Pull and release. One more time, pull out, hold it there. Do the same check-in we did earlier with the arms down. Is it coming mostly at your hands and forearms? If it is, relax your grip a little. See if you can feel back of the shoulder, elbows a little forward, triceps. And as I do that, it makes my neck a little freer. So do a little test with your neck, side to side. Easy, relaxed neck movement. And then coming back to center. And then just do tiny shoulder shrugs here. Very small. Doesn't have to be much. Feel the neck come on. Feel the neck relax. And I'm not pulling my shoulders way down in my shrug. I'm just going up a little, relax it a little. Up a little, relax it a little. Like you were trying to shrug, but you didn't want anyone to see it. Maybe you were rehearsing your theater production in your car and you didn't want anyone to know. For all the actors out there. And then up. And lower your arms all the way down and relax everything. So strap work is always surprising how hard you work. So if you notice like, oh, that's really hard and I really want to move around, that's okay, right? Maybe you feel that, but also knowing that what we're strengthening is really deep, really small, but also, quite difficult and it can fatigue really quickly. And all those muscles help create more stability in your shoulder, a little more ease in your neck. A lot of times we use these big pec muscles to create all the stability in our shoulder, and we kind of use our neck muscles to create stability, and then we all know what that feels like, right? We all have a lot of tension there. So this is helping to relieve some of that tension. So we're going to do one more with the strap, which is to take it behind you or take your towel behind you. Now my grip is a little tighter. My hands are right next to, or narrower, I shouldn't say tighter, but narrower next to my thighs instead of out wide. Same thing. I'm going to have elbows slightly bent and out to the side. I'm going to do that pull. See what that feels like. Now I just added in a little more rib connection in the front. That's going to help when the arms are going behind. So as my arms go back, I try to keep my rib cage really calm, undisturbed, doesn't move around. My chest is relaxed, and I have a little sense of that ribs drawing together in the front. And I think knuckles reaching back too. So it's not just my thumb reaching back or the wrist reaching back, all the way down to my knuckles. Try to reach back behind me. A couple more. Inhale. Two more. I like to say a couple more, and then after I do two, say a couple more. I tend to do that. And then relax. Okay, so we're going to drop the strap off for a moment, but probably come back to it. I'm going to take my feet out a little bit wide. I think Scott does this position a lot. It's not a real strong turnout. It's just the feet a little bit open and the legs comfortably open. Then bend your knees. So your knees go straight over the line of your toes through there. I'm not going very far down. So again, I said Scott does this. Sometimes Scott does this position. He goes pretty far down and he leans forward. It's a slightly different thing. So we're going to go just as far as you don't lean forward, which isn't as far. And then back up. And then bending. Knees go right over toes and back up. So kind of like the strap work, right? We did a little pull and release. Now it's almost like we're doing that in the hip. A little bit of bend and up. And I like to talk about the feet. As I do that little bend this time, stay there. Think about your feet spreading out into the floor. And as your feet spread out into the floor, the knees a little more over your toes. And similarly to the shoulders, now I'm trying to get the back of the hip. And the muscles that are kind of deeper than your glute max muscle, deeper than your quad muscle, but way around that connection of the hip and the thigh through there. And then pressing back up. So let's try it a couple more times. Just explore, experiment. If you like holding it down there, hold it down there. If you like going down and up a little bit, play with that. Eyes are always good. You can look down at your knees. Do they seem like they're in the right place? And if that's going well, then you start to, can you feel it without looking at it? One more time. Okay, now let's put the strap in it too. So grab your towel or your strap. Find your slightly wider than shoulders position, elbows wide position. As you bend your knees, pull the strap. Let it go. We're going to let it go all the way in this time. Pull out, find it, let it go. Back of the shoulder, back of the hip. If we wanted to add a third thing, ribs drawing together, little abdominal support. And reaching out and release and pulling out and release. 2 more of these. Okay, so we're going to go down and hold it. Everything's held really tightly. We're going to add a little heel lift up, not super high, just a little, back down. Left heel comes up just a little, back down. If you're getting kind of tired in your quads, be a little higher. Don't have to be super low. If you want, strap could go up, back down. When I lift one heel, I feel the other foot really grounded. Last time, right and left. And then finishing that and all the way up to standing. Okay, so we'll take the strap off to the side. We'll work our way down to the floor. So however you like, come to a seated position. And then we're going to go right onto your back into shoulder bridge, the exercise shoulder bridge. So that's going to be feet hip distance apart, toes pointing forward. So I can check that while I'm sitting up. Sometimes it's nice to get a real sense. One foot's not more forward or more out. And then if I do it that way, I need to scoop my butt forward before I roll back. So I'm going to slide my hips forward, roll back, and I can leave my feet exactly where they are. Now, what we just did standing, we had the feet turned out and the knees turned out. And we were working these kind of outer hip muscles, back of the hip muscles. So if you felt that, try to reconnect to it here. Even though your knees are pointing straight ahead, could you think of pressing your feet and contacting those muscles just a little? And maybe that's working for you. Great. We're going to add in, as you press your feet, a little bit of tone in your lower abdominals. Maybe you feel that. Great. So we got feet, outer hip, lower belly. And sometimes you can feel all those things. Sometimes one thing is a little stronger than the other, and that's just fine too. If you feel more belly but not hip, it's just fine, or vice versa. But working with those three images, we're going to start the shoulder bridge, pressing the feet, little support from the back and outer hip, little support from the belly, rolling your pelvis up. And as you come down, still that support. We'll take that a few times, experimenting with how high your hips go when you really stay in those three images. So you might take your hips higher if you were thinking about something else, or you might find this actually allows you to take your hips higher. Doesn't matter. Either way is fine. The goal is to stay with this connection in the body. I'm just rolling up and down a few times. And once your pelvis is down this time, stay there. Okay, so when we were standing, we had the strap behind us. We did those reaching back movements, taking the strap back behind us. And in shoulder bridge, our arm is basically in the same position. As your hips come up, it's basically like your arms pressing back behind you. So we're going to do the bridge again, and now we're going to think about that a little bit. So before you go up, same thing we thought about with the strap. Elbows a little soft, a little bent, and out to the side. Now, I'm not going to make a fist. I'm going to have my hands flat on the floor, and I'm going to think press a little bit down. And as my pelvis rolls up, it's like my arms are reaching back behind me. I'm going to think of that same thing, that my arms press down a little bit as if they were reaching behind me. And I'm going to keep that support as I roll down. And try a couple with that image. Now, maybe you've already started doing this, but could you put the two together? Feet, outer back of the hip, belly, arms pressing down. This time when you get there, hold it and just explore any or all of those things. Might bring your pelvis up a little higher. It might just release your neck a little bit or your lower back. Couple more breaths here. And rolling back down. And stretch your legs out on the floor. I'm going to take my props a little out of the way. Okay, so bring your feet together, legs together, toes pointing up. Notice where your left leg is. Leave it there. Bend your right knee and hold the back of your thigh. Now, if I bring my knee in super close, my left leg's going to move. So as I ask you to hold your left leg in place, it also affects how far your right leg comes in. So you could try it again if you feel like, oh, I didn't quite pay attention to that, right? So you could try again. Okay, what's that like? Where is that leg? Where do you want to hold that? We're going to go up and down a little bit with the breath. Now, elbows a little wide, maybe a hint of that strap work feeling in the upper back of the shoulder. And as you reach your leg a little higher up, it's almost like you're pulling out on the strap again, just a tiny bit with those muscles. Bend your knee back in. And as the leg gets higher, elbows like they're pulling out on the strap slightly. Knee back in. And I'm feeling my ribs come in as well to help create the support in the upper body. Next time your leg is up, leave it there. Let's move your foot around. Flex and point. And then bring your foot back to a tabletop position, but keep the feeling in your arms. That little sense of wide elbows, back of the arm, a little bit of pushing your leg forward into your hands. Now maybe you start to feel that back of the hip, upper hamstring sort of feeling. We're going to use that feeling as you push your leg a little more forward and you support with your arms. You let your head and upper body come off the floor. We've created sort of a lock in the hands, the upper lower body, the leg pressing forward, the arms really supporting. I'm going to keep using that feeling of a lever to push my leg to bring me up a little higher and all the way up to sitting. Okay, maybe that worked great for you. Maybe it was kind of hard. You're not alone if it was kind of hard and you got a little stuck. So now we get to do it from the top. And if you found it very hard to come up from all the way on the floor, just go about halfway down and come back up. And you're going to start building the strength and the support, same strength and support. But as your spine gets a little more mobile, you'll be able to go a little farther down. So here we are. Same sort of feeling. Create the lock, leg pushing forward, elbows wide, upper back of the shoulder, rolling down through the spine. And a couple times. Inhale, exhale to come up. Inhale, exhale to go down. And if you'll remember, using the upper back of the shoulder means your chest doesn't have to grab so much. So you might pay attention to that as well. Last time, coming down all the way back to the mat. And then taking the right leg to the floor. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. Legs together, toes towards the ceiling. Leave your right leg in place. Bring the left thigh in. On the inhale, the leg goes up. The higher your leg gets, the more you get that strap feeling, pulling out. Bend the knee. Leg reaches up. Elbow wide strap pull feeling. Bring it in. One more time. Holding that feeling, maybe draw your ribs in a little bit. Start the foot moving. Flexing and pointing. If my leg is too straight, it's hard not to grip in my chest. So if you notice your chest gripping, bend your knee a tiny bit. See if that helps. Now, knee to tabletop. Leg pushes forward, strap feeling in the arms. Keep pushing the leg until you lift your head. Find your rib connection, find your belly connection. Keep pushing the leg. And then a couple times down and up. Halfway down is great. If that works better for you, 3/4 of the way down, also really good if you get that far. Inhale to start. Exhale. And one more time. And all the way down. And then you get a bonus because we're going to come up to sitting, whichever leg you want to use, or if you want to take both legs, then do a rock up to sitting. We usually have a clock that we can use when we're in the studio, and that's why I have to keep looking at my watch now to see where I am. So one more thing. We have time for one more thing. That's the exciting part. So rolling exercises. And we've talked about some different ways to do it. You want to be on a soft surface. Make sure you're, on carpet or pretty cushioned surface. You can have pretty much the same hand position we just had, holding the backs of the legs. If you do that, it's not going to be a very far back roll. That's just because your shape is open. That's just how it's going to be. So you're going to have kind of a small roll, kind of a slower, more controlled roll if you're holding the backs of the legs. Hands on the knees is going to give you a little more roll. Maybe your pelvis ends up coming off. Hands on the ankles. Tightest position, you have potential for a really big roll. Either way, we're going to think about the same things. I'm going to do hands on the knees. It's a nice in between. So I'm going to go wide elbows, ribs in, belly in. Little feeling of the back of the legs pushing forward, creating that lock. As my knees press forward into my hands, my elbows reach wide, my belly draws in. I'm going to try to keep that all the way back, all the way up. And there are moments where I want to lose it, where my knees want to pull in and out, which means maybe I've lost the back of the hip pushing forward. Or maybe my chest got really tight and I started pulling too much with my arms. And one more. And then finishing. Okay, so I'm going to pass it off to Scott. I'll see you guys later.
Really good to be here, and I really enjoyed that back of the shoulder work. We're going to continue that. As you can probably tell, it's really sunny here in Crestone. Rarely, if ever, do I have even the pretense of wanting to keep the sunglasses on. But today it is that sunny. But I think it would be kind of odd to keep the sunglasses on, so I'm going to go ahead and set them aside for the time being. I taught a lot of yoga, and in yoga, we'll put the arms in various positions, and we'll oftentimes talk about where the hands face. Do they face down? Do they face up? Do they face together? But rarely do we talk about how we rotate the upper arms. And continuing the thread that Colette developed, working the back of the shoulder has such a very direct application to improving your posture. The rotation of your arms really is a make or break, whether or not you access the back of the shoulder or whether it goes unexamined. So let's begin. So have your feet comfortably together. Take a few breaths here. I like to breathe in through my nose and then out through the mouth. Now, to help directly access those muscles in the back of the shoulder that support good posture, I developed the arm series. So to begin, touch your fingertips and see that your elbows are at about shoulder height. And what this positioning does, it puts your upper arm in internal rotation. It means that your bicep muscles face straight forward. So to help tone the muscles in the backs of your shoulders, keep that internal rotation as you slowly outstretch your arms. So arms still rotating internally, palms still facing down. We'll hold here for 3 breaths. And bring your arms down. That subcategory OF, isn't it? Oddly fatiguing. So now a similar area but slightly different band of muscles is accessed by external rotation. So to generate external rotation, pretend you're a football goalpost. Can you feel how your bicep muscles now face up toward the sky? Or the ceiling? Whichever may be the case. So best you can maintain that external rotation. So you slowly straighten your elbows. So biceps continue to face up. Palms continue to face forward. 3 breaths. And bring your arms. So now let's put that into a yoga pose. Step your feet wide apart. Turn your left foot in and then your right foot out. And let's do a little bit of warm up. Exhale, ankle, hip, knee bend. Inhale, they straighten. Exhale. Inhale. Few more. The next time your knee in the bent position, pausing. Then bring your hands into prayer position. So let's begin with the arms internally rotated. Joining your tips of your fingers, elbows at shoulder height. Lift the back of your head up. The best you can, keep that internal rotation in your arms as you slowly outstretch. And keep that internal rotation. Recharge the lift of your head up. Exhale, swivel your head to the right. 3 breaths. Inhale, come up. Turn back toward the front. Now the second side, turn your right foot in and your left foot out. Exhale, ankle bends, then the hip bends and the knee bends. Inhale, coming up. Exhale. Inhale. So I don't know if you could see it on the screen, but we have periodic hummingbirds come flying by. Couple more movements. Then next time, knee in the bent position, pausing there. Bring your hands to prayer position. Few breaths here. And internally rotating your arms. Keep that internal rotation as you outstretch. As Colette pointed out, sometimes the work in the shoulders tugs on the neck. So to help release that lift up through the crown of your head, even more the back of your head. Then swivel to your left. 3 breaths. And coming up. And stepping your feet together. Feeling your feet on the floor. Then from that connection, that groundedness, bring awareness to your pelvic crest. And ever so slightly, lift your pelvic crest up toward the ceiling. Maybe you already felt how that lightly engaged your belly. Use that tone, that energy, to lift your spine up. It's so tempting to lift the spine from the head. Let your spine support your head. So to practice letting your head be supported rather than your head running the show, we're going to take little nodding yes movements. Inhale, back of your head up. Exhale, let it go back down. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. It's a small movement, isn't it? Back of the head. Inhale up. Exhale down. Breath cycle here. Almost like your head was buoyant, floating atop your neck. Inhale, turn your head slightly to the right. Exhale, back to the middle. To the left. Inhale. Back to the middle. Exhale. A few more like that. So I have a little arthritis in my neck, long-standing, old injuries. Not much I can do about it, but I keep the mobility I've got. And back toward the middle. So that sense that your head is being supported by your feet, by tone in your belly, by your spine. Warrior pose again. Step your feet wide apart. Turn your left foot in and right foot out. Couple bend straightens. Exhale. Inhale. Couple more. Once your knee in the bent position, pausing. Bring your hands into prayer position. Few breaths. So now we're going to explore arm external rotation. Starting off with your arms like this. And see if you can keep that external rotation as you slowly straighten. Notice how palms face forward. And remember that sense of letting your spine support your head buoyant. With the next exhale, swivel your head to your right. 3 breaths. Inhale, coming up. And back toward the middle. Second side, turn your right foot in, left foot up. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Couple more like that. Next time, knee in the bent position, pausing there. Bring your hands into prayer position. External arm rotation. Then maintaining that exo rotation. You straight. Head and neck loose. Now swiveling your head to the left. 3 breaths. Inhale up, back to the front, stepping your feet together. So now let's make some whole body movements, partial sun salutations. Inhale into your back ribs. Then with the exhale, arms to the side, chin up. Then with the inhale, fold. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, folding. Exhale all the way up. Inhale, arms. Again like that. Exhale up. Inhale, fold it. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, folding. Exhale all the way up. Inhale, arms down. I should have kept my sunglasses on. So feet still hip width apart. Again, taking a moment to feel your feet on the floor. Let's done some great classes this week on working with the feet through the ball of the foot and the toes. Stepping your feet wide apart. And then from your thighs, turn your feet up. Keeping that external rotation. Exhale, bending your ankles, bending your hips, and bending your knees. And then inhale, coming up. Now there's a few different ways to do this. Exhale, bending. Inhale, coming up. Now one way is to keep your torso straight up and down, which works certain attributes. We're doing a different variation. Ankles bend, hips bend, which means your torso angles forward and up. Couple more. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. I'm pausing here. Can you see it coming? Internal rotation. Keeping internal rotation as you outstretch. Now, if this is a TV show right about now, we'd cue the diabolical laugh. Because what we're going to do next is going to challenge the muscles in the backs of your shoulders. Many people report a lot more deep. Keeping the internal rotation. Exhale, bending. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Last one. And bring your arms back in. And then your legs. Connecting in with your feet on the ground. Pelvic crest slightly lifting, almost imperceptible. Then from your lower belly, spine lifts upward. Culminating in spine, supporting your head. Last time we did some nodding and some turn, little side to side. So now making an infinity sign with your nose. So practicing letting your skull be light atop your neck. Now going the other direction. And letting that movement fade out. And then stepping your feet wide apart. From your thigh bones, turning your feet out. Maintain that external rotation. Exhale, bending your hips, your knees, your ankles. Inhale, coming up. One more. And with your knees straight, pausing here. Let your tail drop to the floor. Relax your tailbone. And from your tailbone, lift the back of your head up toward the blue sky. But rather than doing that from your head, from your belly, head and neck loose. Keeping that length in your neck, bring your arms to external rotation. And keeping this external rotation, exhale, triple flexion. Inhale. Last one. And bring your arms in and stepping your feet together. Sun Salutation to transition to the floor. Begin by diverting the inhale into your back ribs. Then exhale, sweep up. Greet the sky. Inhale, folding. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, stepping back. So here in yoga pose, dog pose, move your hands forward away from your hips. And your hips up and back away from your hands. And let the weight of your head hang. 3 breaths. And then coming down. Coming into a sitting position, knees bent, feet on the floor. And either your hands on your knees or your elbows. Let your tailbone drop down. And lift the back of your head up. Right, whole spine elongate. Then taking your right foot forward. Then either leaving your right foot on the same side, or if it works comfortably, bring it up and over. Now, when I bring that foot up and over, I start to feel a little bit of a tug on that bent knee hip. So to help work with that, drop the bent knee sitting bone down and recharge a lift up through the back of your head. Nice. Then bring your right arm, either hand to knee or elbow to knee, and your left hand behind you. And twisting to your left. 5 deep breaths. And then back to the front. Switching your legs out. Left leg forward, right leg either in or up and over. Left hand then, it's either hand catching the knee or elbow catching the knee. Right hand behind. Letting that right sitting bone drop down, anchored down. And then from there, lift up to the back of your head. And twisting to your right. 5 deep breaths. And then back in toward the front. Taking both feet forward. Big deep inhale here. Exhale, sweep your arms up. Folding forward, hips, lower back, upper back, neck. 3 deep breaths. And exhale, coming up. We're going to take a few minutes here for sitting practice. So you could be sitting on the floor. I prefer to sit up on a cushion myself. Or you could sit up in a chair. Now, various traditions suggest that simply sitting upright, that there are energy centers along the spine, that when they line up, clarify the mind. So let's give it a shot. So typically when we sit way on the very back of the sitting. So rock a little bit forward so you're perched right on the center or a little front of center on your sitting bone. Now with the next out breath, connect your lower ribs to your belly and maintain that connection. So now your thorax is stacked above your abdomen. So that line that's been formed, that's been created. Now bring your neck and head into that line. Now we work quite a bit in today's session on the backs of the shoulders. So the next instruction is not about what you do, it's about relaxing your chest muscles, relaxing your shoulders, letting your chest naturally open, and your spine naturally support your neck and head. Your choice, eyes could be open or they could be closed. Rather than thinking about meditating, we'll take a minute or so here for non-meditation, lightly connecting in with your posture. few more breaths. And then if you've closed your eyes, now opening your eyes. We're really glad that you were able to join us here in Crestone, Colorado, one of our favorite places. And then next week, we return to our home base in Blue Mounds, Wisconsin. And really excited next week, I'm teaching interoception boot camp. And what we're going to take a look at is the merging of cardio, alignment, and strength, like we did just now, and then seated meditation. And the whole exceeds the sum of the parts when you bring all the three together. There'll be an additional focus on learning about how to use heart rate zones to optimize the time that you spend working out. So if you get a chance, please check out the website, and hopefully we'll see you again really soon.